Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO 44 coming at you in another video. All right, so we got the news on D'Lo and Jackson Hayes. Jackson Hayes is picking up his $2.4 million option, and D'Lo will be opting in 18.7 million for 1 year. So, as I predicted about probably like 3 months ago, D'Lo would opt in. I was right, and if you follow me, you know I was right. The market just wasn't going to be overly favorable to him making more than $18 million. Not because we don't believe he deserves $18 million, but because you can give the excuse for not paying him $18 million. That's the reality of it. Because he hasn't played well in 3 straight playoffs, you could lowball the hell out of him, and that's exactly what the market is doing. So it wasn't in his best interest to test the market because it wasn't going to give him more than that. At least he gets his money. And if I'm D'Lo, I'm betting on myself. And what I mean by that is not only his game and him playing well, is the Lakers have been rumoring to trade D'Angelo Russell ever since they pretty much got him here. And every trade deadline, somehow he's not traded. I don't think he's going to be staying. I do think that we'll likely look to shop him very soon. But the evidence showed us that they won't be able to really pull anything off, even in shopping him. They always try to shop him. They can never get it done. So if I'm him, I'm banking on that being more of what continues to happen. Rather than playing the market, signing with some team for less than what I'm about to make right now and opting in, and then having to incorporate myself into a situation in a different locker room, when worst case scenario, if I opt in, I get more money if the market isn't kind, and they're going to trade me anyway, so I have to reincorporate into another locker room regardless, with more money in my pocket. The worst case scenario still leaves him in that same boat, unless he's able to find more money somewhere else, which I didn't believe he would be able to, in the market dictate he wouldn't. That's why I believe he's opting in. So I just don't think, it's not always about what you deserve. It's about what the market believes you deserve and what it can lowball you for. Whatever reasons is enough. And this, explosively expensive market where inflation is really real and the influx of revenue money is real, it just stands to reason why a guy like D'Lo Russell's representation would not be able to find him more money. And so I saw that coming, because it's not just last season that is being taken into account, but it's the last 3 seasons where he's kind of fizzled out in the playoffs. And any team that's going to pay him over $18 million wants him to come in and help them win. No bad team is about to invest in him like that because of his history with the whole some of the stuff that he's been through, and the overall reputation he has in the personality aspect of it. So it's like, I just didn't think it made any sense to actually believe that he was opting out. And during the final week of the playoffs for us, when it was reported that he was opting out, I told all of y'all that was cap. Y'all remember that? It was like right after he had played poorly in the Denver Nuggets. I think it was game 2, and they had that random report coming out saying he was opting out. I'm like, bro, that ain't true. And fast forward to tonight, and it wasn't true. So that's just what it was. I'm very happy D'Lo opted in. Obviously, we need to retain all value. And as hard as it is to find quality players at that price, that might be the best value we're going to get for that type of talent at this point. When you consider Bruce Brown is going to be making $24 million this year, I definitely do not want us to trade D'Lo Russell for Bruce Brown. I think D'Lo Russell is an overall more productive basketball player and a better value for the dollar. So it's like, I'm not interested in really trading D'Lo for Colin Sexton. Because Colin Sexton is not a better value than D'Lo at $18 million. Because I don't trust Colin Sexton to stay healthy, and he hasn't proven he can get back to that old style of being himself. Now, granted, he's in a loaded backcourt, but like that's an example of the type of options the Lakers have at this point. It seems to me, you can make a trade for D'Lo Russell and try to get him to Brooklyn, and then try to take back Dorian Finney-Smith, of whom I think his value has decreased a great deal. And maybe you're bringing in what? What do they have other than Dorian? What was the other piece that we were talking about getting? I honestly don't even remember who it was. I don't remember. Cam Johnson? Cam Johnson's going to cost you more than that. So it's like you don't get to do a deal with Brooklyn, who's a rebuilding team, without throwing in picks. And even though most of Laker Nation wants DFS, and a lot of people are willing to throw in picks, that's actually not good value for that player. So it's a lot of things that the Lakers are just not going to be able to do right now. But what you can do is bring back one of your best players in D'Lo Russell as he opts in, and play him a half a season like we intended to every year, and try to chop him at the trade deadline as we often do every year. But this time he's an expiring contract, so it might be a little easier to move him later, and you might find something shakes or loose that ultimately gets you a better look. So I think the chances of him starting the season with the Lakers is solid. I don't think our chances of having a trade done there is, because I don't see a whole lot that we would be doing that ultimately gets us an opportunity to have better value than him at $18 million. I don't see it. As I canvass the league, I ain't really see nothing. Of course, we were looking at DeJounte Murray most of the time leading up to this point, but as we know, DeJounte Murray was traded for a bag of peanuts to the New Orleans Pelicans. And what I think was just sheer spite. Just sheer spite on both, or parts of both of those teams. So, Laker taxes will. That's another reason why I don't think trading D'Lo Russell is likely going to yield us the results we're hoping for. Because it clearly, if we were going to try to get DeJounte Murray, it would have cost us three times what it cost the New Orleans Pelicans. So that's just the hate of those organizations, and ultimately that's how the market reacts to our favor. And so I don't know that I don't feel a lot better about D'Lo opting in knowing that JJ is coach. I think I do, because Darvin Ham drew so much away from this team with his choices and his style of doing things. I honestly think that JJ Redick, in theory, is going to put D'Lo Russell in more advantageous positions to exploit his talents and his strengths on the offensive end. And I feel that way about Jackson Hayes as well, even though Jackson Hayes did thrive under Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham was reluctant to play him and reward him for that. His minutes were inconsistent. I don't know if JJ's going to have use for Jackson Hayes, but I also don't think Jackson Hayes' situation is the same as D'Lo Russell's, because Jackson Hayes only making $2 million. So he's not eating too much of your cap at all. And I think whatever he gives you is probably worth $2 million, especially if he continues to play the way that he has. So I'm actually pretty pleased with Jackson Hayes opting in, looking at the current market, looking at our center position, and ultimately looking at how he played last year in the moments given. He had some really good games for the standards that we had for him, and I think his best basketball is ahead of us. And I think with the addition of Dalton Knecht specifically, now you can see more gravity being pulled away from a guy like Jackson Hayes. You could see D'Lo Russell having another shooting mate in that lineup that's competent out there. Although we did have that to a degree with Taurean Prince shooting very well, I think Dalton Knecht gives us even more of that. So I'm very optimistic that this is a better basketball team, just off of the sheer notion that a lot of these guys that we had are still developing, and they've got another year under their belt and another offseason under their belt to work out. I think having Bronny James on this team could potentially be a very good thing for Bron James, instilling a new life and a certain piece about him professionally that I don't think he's ever known. And having his son next to him, I'd imagine is going to be very, very good for his overall outlook, regardless if we're winning or losing. And I think this is going to be a better season than the last two. Even though we had great results in the Western Conference Finals, I just think the overall season itself, the regular season, is going to be a lot better. I think that. I don't think some of the injury issues are ahead of us. Knock on wood, I just don't think so. And I hope that we can move on from some injury-prone guys. Gabe Vincent and Vanderbilt, particularly, I'm ready to move on from. And yeah, I know everybody loves Vanderbilt, but I just do not want to go another season with him and those foot issues and the offensive issues. I think those are cost-effective pieces, especially if you pair them together. You could probably get something better than you think. Because people do value Vando at $4 million in this upcoming season. And Gabe Vincent, with 2 years left on his deal, with the climate that we're in, it's not as bad as a contract as it was last year. When you look at some of the contracts that's going around, him at $15 million is fine. But maybe not necessarily for what we want to do. So, I don't know. I think that Cam Reddish will probably opt in. But I would tell Cam Reddish that this ain't Darvin Ham, bro. I don't think you're going to get on the floor. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think JJ going to pay him at all. I don't think he's going to get much minutes because he doesn't really shoot the ball. He's a nice defensive player, but I don't think JJ's probably very high on Cam Reddish. So these are the type of things that I'm speculating about. But I don't think we'll see some of the same roles, even though we bring back some of the same players, because you got an entirely different coach. Max Christie is expected to be re-signed or matched for whatever it is that he signs with another team. I know that other rival teams are showing interest, so I don't know what the Lakers' threshold for what they would be willing to go to in regards to matching his contract, but it is expected that we will match his contract, whatever it is. So I do expect Max Christie to be back, especially since his brother's now with the Clippers. I'd imagine he's going to want to stay in Los Angeles. So I expect him to get that deal done. I think it's noteworthy that Dalton Connect's going to be wearing number 4, Connect 4. I like that. And Bronny James is going to be wearing number 9. It's an upside down 6. Of course, his dad's practice number is 6. His number with the Heat was 6. And it has some connection to Juice WRLD, who passed away several years ago, pop artist. So I'm not really sure what the connection is to the number 9 in that regard, but from what I understand, he's honoring Juice WRLD when he wears it as well. So that's noteworthy information. I'm very pleased with what D'Lo chose to do. He said that he wants to come back and win a championship. That's his goal. He likes the direction that JJ Redick seems to be going in. That's the gist of what I read. And I'm thankful that D'Lo opted in, man. We don't need anybody leaving for nothing. We don't need anybody just opting out, because at the end of the day, we are lacking in assets. It is a tough market. There is a Laker tax. So $19 million leaving our books doesn't necessarily mean we have $19 million open because of the current CBA making it so that you still have that money on your books even when somebody leaves based on our tax situation. So you need that representative talent, and I think D'Lo is probably one of the best contracts for his talent level in the league right now at $18 million, which is strange given what we've already discussed about how the market probably wasn't going to be kinder to him than that. But the market is lowballing him. They're lowballing his talent for the sake of his reputation. That's really what it is. And his poor play in the playoffs. So, I think he made the right decision for himself. He secures another bag. And I think that he'll have yet another opportunity to play up his value in a winning situation. Yet another opportunity to continue to be a Laker, which is something he really, really likes. Which I told you guys was also worked into the equation. I didn't think he wanted to leave LA. I never thought he wanted to leave LA. I never thought he wanted to leave the Lakers. And, I think the Lakers need to really consider what their backup point guard position is going to be. If D'Lo's staying, do you trust Jalen Hood-Schifino to step in and play well? I know he's back on the court. His back appears to have, been healed, which I'm kind of skeptical about, because in listening to other people who've had that surgery, it don't seem to heal as quickly as his has, but then again, he's a 19-year-old athlete, so maybe that has a lot to do with it. But I do think he should continue to work if he feels good enough to do so. Stay in the gym because we're gonna probably need him to play real minutes this year. I don't know if Rob Pelinka is going to be able to make any moves. I know a lot of people want him to, but sometimes no deal is the best deal. And the way things are shaping up right now, I don't really like none of what I see out there in this market. And I think if I wait a little while, I may like what I see later on. And so that's the truth. Now, we do need to try to work free agency. Free agency starts on the 30th. I believe the 30th is what, today? I'm not really sure. What, Saturday? I think it is today. I haven't checked. But the 30th is when free agency begins officially, so people can sign and negotiate with rival teams, players, or just free agents in general. And we'll get some understanding of what the landscape will be in that regard. But I do think there are some players out there. I don't have anybody in mind, but I do think because of the draft now being behind us, there could be some different circumstances in place than what we've been looking at over the last couple of months in regards to what's projected to be available. New guards coming in to create log jams in their situation. Maybe we can get a guard. I think a guy like keep an eye on Washington Wizards situation, who they just picked up. Brogdon may be a buyout candidate, so pay attention to that. It's just a lot of stuff that you might want to take a look at. You know, Reggie Jackson's probably a buyout candidate as well in Charlotte, so he may be shaking loose. Russell Westbrook, even though I have no interest in bringing him back, I do believe that he's going to be leaving the Clippers right now. Probably headed somewhere. I don't know where he's going to land, but I do not expect him to be a Laker. I can tell you that. I think that's dead in the water. But again, that's the point is there will be point guards available to sign as our backup, and that's something I think it should be a priority right now, because I do not believe that Jalen Hood-Schifino is ready, not for the type of role that we're going to need him to be. And nor am I overly excited about D'Lo running the point or Austin running the point. I'd rather them kind of be a little more worked into different positions under JJ Redick. I'd like to see D'Lo play a little more 2, Austin play a little more 3, and then have that point guard in place if at all possible. I definitely don't want to see them on the floor at the same time too often for defensive reasons. Especially now that we have Dalton Connect in place, who likely could be starting as well. That just makes us even worse defensively in that regard. Nice shooting the ball, but it's going to be a layup line. And we don't have that back line of defense outside of AD, so the need to try to address our front line situation there, even though Jackson Hayes is back, he's not a rim protector like that, and we know it. So we're going to have to address that. And that's why I think the guy that I was telling you guys about, that power forward, that dude that I don't know what his name is at the moment, from France, I think there'll be opportunities for him to make the big team if he's as good as he looked last night in the footage I saw. And I've come to find out that it was the best case scenario in regards to what I was worried about. The footage that I saw was after the knee injury. His knee injury took place in 22-23, and the footage I saw was from 23-24. So the player that I saw is the player that we're getting, and that dude is going to help us a lot if he can get on the floor. And I know that his only real deficiency is shooting the 3 ball, but he did hit the shot. I saw him hit it, so he's capable of improving from 3. So this is somebody I definitely want to see on the floor in Summer League, and if he's as good as I think he is, then he probably should be a part of the regular team, and maybe even ahead of some of these dudes in rotation, to be honest with you. So I'm curious to see what happens there. Colin Castleton being powered a little more, but I don't think Colin Castleton's the answer, because he really does get pushed around by guys who are bigger than him, and I don't know how much strength he's going to be putting on from this point to kind of make him that piece. So A lot of people are excited about Jonas Valanciunas. If we can get him at a small amount of money, I think that's probably a good solution at this point. Drummond, I don't really like Drummond that much at all, but at this point, we really do need to address the center position. I cringe at the idea because I just don't think those players are very good at this stage in the game. And maybe I can canvas the league for somebody better. That's how I look at it. But at the end of the day, that's really what it is. The Lakers got to figure out a way to improve their center position and ultimately their backup point guard position. Thinking about Rui Hachimura, thinking about Vanderbilt, thinking about Gabe Vincent. If I package all three of those people together, can I get the answer to my problems solved? I don't know. Does that create more problems for my roster in removing what those guys do? I don't know. Especially when it comes to Rui. I'm not excited about moving Rui, but his contract matches a lot of salaries around the league that you probably are going to have to match. And given the fact that Gabe Vincent isn't anyone that they think the market really wants, and then that's kind of your best piece, basically, is Rui Hachimura to move things around. So that's the only reason why I even put him in that. I think people will probably want us to dangle Jalen Hood-Schifino. I'm not all the way sure that's a good idea. I just don't think that moving on from a 20-year-old point guard who you took in the first round of last year, I don't think you move him because he struggled as a rookie. I don't think you use him as a throw-in at a $2 million contract just to fill a void of a particular random year. Because if he does turn into what it is you drafted him to be, you were stupid for doing that. I think fans are like I said, microwave minds, so they're going to want to move on from somebody they saw play poorly and not take into account any of the context for why that took place. Was he ever running the point guard at all for our team? No. Was he a rookie coming into the Los Angeles Lakers situation, which can be anxiety-inducing, to say the least? Yes. Did he look good in the G League? Absolutely. Did he have injuries at the start of the season that cut his development? Yes. Did he have injuries at the end of the season that cut his development? Yes. And never did he run the point for which he was drafted to be. We saw Jalen Hood-Schifino put in positions to do everything but what it is that he actually does. And on top of that, those injury issues messed him up. And he was a freshman out of college. So it wasn't like he's been developing like Dalton Knecht and Austin Reeves. So when you take all of that into account, if you drafted him not to develop him in the first place, then your mistake is even further made. But if you move on from him before you get a chance to develop him, just so that you can fill in a roster spot with a player that you're likely not going to play that much anyway in the grand scheme of things, which is what could be possible if we bring in a center for Jalen Hood-Schifino or something like that, then I just think you regret it 2 years from now when he's running around 6'6" point guard getting the production that you drafted him to provide. I don't want to do that just because he had an awful rookie season. I've known of many good players that had awful rookie seasons. Now, I've known of guys who've had great rookie seasons and then fall off a cliff. I've seen guys who have bad rookie seasons and never get off the ground. So I really don't know who Jalen Hood-Schifino is. But what I do know is he's a 6'6" point guard who would, in all intent and purposes, would be in his junior year of college right now, coming off an injury. And while I wasn't overly excited about what he could be when we were drafting him, I still saw a lot of things there that I think are going to be useful in the NBA, including a two-way ability to guard and the ability to take advantage of the mid-range and shoot a pretty solid percentage from the free throw line and pretty decent streaky ability from behind the arc, as well as the ability to get others involved. So while I know he had a bad rookie season, as Darvin Ham put him in horrible rotations sporadically at random when the score was already out of whack, or in situations that just didn't make any sense for the young fella. That's not who's going to be coaching him this year. So I need us to play up Jalen Hood-Schifino's value before I actually co-sign us moving him. Least of all to get some random center that's probably going to get played off the damn floor anyway halfway through the season. I just know better. So I'd rather us try to go after a Malcolm Brogdon in a buyout situation or a Reggie Jackson in a buyout situation, and then let Jalen Hood-Schifino develop behind that player and ultimately take the position from him, take the role from him halfway through the season. That's probably a better way to play it. And then if you don't like what you see at the end of this year, then you trade Jalen Hood-Schifino at an elevated price from what it is right now. Because right now, he's dirt cheap. And you know who this reminds me of, ironically enough? Rui Hachimura with the Wizards. Started his career, injury issues, got on the floor, struggled his rookie season. And then they kept him another year. He struggled in that year. Trade him to the Lakers, he's balling out. You know, I've seen a situation like that with Trevor Ariza. Started his career with the New York Knicks, not a very good rookie season. I think he moved on to Orlando after that. Played okay, but nothing too serious. They gave up on him, traded him to the Lakers, and he balled out. So it's like, I know better. When you get a young player like Jalen Hood-Schifino, you have to let the rookie season not really bother you. If he has a great rookie season, you can't overstate that or overrate that. If he has a bad rookie season, it ain't nothing, because he does have to develop and he is a young player. Now, if he was a 4-year guy like Dalton having a bad rookie season, then it's a little concerning. Or Austin Reeves, a little concerning. But a guy that you drafted at 19 years old, and you bring him to the bright lights of LA with a bad coach who's telling him to do stuff that ain't his functionality, and then he gets hurt, and like, that's, I'm sorry, Laker fans. Nobody who's intelligent, who understands that, is going to tell you that moving on from this player is in your best interest when you don't really have value to begin with. A lot of the stuff that you have ain't worth what it should be. Your picks are gone. And you're going to mortgage this guy as a throw-in just because you didn't like what you saw from him as a rookie under these circumstances? It's not intelligent. That's not smart. Just being honest. So while moving on from him could potentially be a good idea if he continues to be poor as a player, if he's not good, but to be certain that he's not good because he didn't play well last year, that's just stupid. That's lacking in evidence of other players who had that same path and it go well. I've seen it for too much of that in my life. Dirk Nowitzki had a bad rookie season. Like, I can't. I'm not stupid enough to move on. Steve Nash didn't exactly pop off the screen until what, his 3rd year? Steph Curry had the worst ankles ever. For the first 3 years of his career, he was injury prone. Like, you cannot let all of the different contextual data be ignored when assessing a guy you took at 17th overall last year. And while other rookies popped off the screen who we probably should have taken, you can't see what the future holds for those people either. A guy like Jaime Jaquez was a 4-year guy. Of course he's expected to play better than Jalen Hood-Schifino. He had already done all the development. Now, if he would have brought Jaime Jaquez in as a rookie or a freshman, he wasn't that player that he ultimately was last year. You would have had to wait another 2 years to see that type of production. So it's like, if a guy doesn't stay in school, a guy doesn't stay in school. That's why Jalen probably should have stayed in school. But he came out as a freshman, so we knew he was a project, and now we got to develop him. Same thing with Max Christie. You draft these freshmen, 19-year-olds, with the timeline that we have, you better be ready to develop them. You can't expect for them to come in like 4-year guys. That's why targeting 4-year guys is smart for some teams. So that's my attitude on that. I know better than to move on from the 17th overall pick after one season of him not being put in a position to even do what it is he's supposed to be doing. Nor was he healthy enough to even develop to begin with. And he looked good in the G League. Yeah, no, that all of those things tell me that's somebody you should probably hold on to and give another year or two. It takes 4 or 5 years for a player to develop. I think it's probably going to take him 5 or 6 years, given the fact this first season was a rookie injury year with that type of context. So he's probably not going to be ready for a while. But when he is ready, if he doesn't continue to have this back injury issue or any other injury issues, he's probably going to turn into a nice big guard in this league, of whom you're going to be looking back saying, man, we were stupid for letting him go. I can't believe we had him. We've done that too many times over the last 30 years of me watching this. We've done that too much. So, no, I'm not on board with moving Jalen Hood-Schifino unless I love the trade. But as a throw-in just to complete the roster to get a caliber like Drummond or something like that, that's just not something I'm going to be okay with. Not at all. Nah. So we need to play up the value of the stuff that we have, especially the young guys, man. Our rebuild could be right around the corner, so it ain't no sense in giving away a 20-year-old that we used a whole first-round pick on at a third of the price. That's just not smart. So that's what I want to say, man. Just assessing the team, man. Very excited. Wish I remembered the name of some of those guys that we brought in. But I do encourage you guys to watch the video on them. Henson and I forgot the other guy's name from France. But I'm excited about both of those players being helpful to our roster in the Summer League specifically. And the French guy, I think he'll make the team. I really do. If all things considered, if our roster doesn't change very much, we're going to need exactly what he does. So that's my thought, man. That's kind of what I wanted to give you guys. Welcome back, D'Lo. I think if we could find a great trade for him, I'm sure we'll do it. But I'm not just shopping him just to get some pieces. I'm not doing that. I would rather run back everything we had last year and just add Bronny and connect to it, and then try to canvas the league throughout the course of the season to find something better if this offseason isn't going to provide us exactly what we want. So that's my point of view on things, man. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. My name is BDF44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.